All eyes on Annapolis as Governor Moore delivers his third State of the State address. The governor focused on the challenges facing Maryland, including the state's multi-billion-dollar budget shortfall.
While Republicans say we're on a path of uncontrolled government growth and tax hikes, the governor believes the state can rise to the occasion.
And our job is not simply just to batten down the hatches. We must prove that when Maryland was tested, that we collectively met this moment.
When it comes to taxation, the governor's budget merely gives with one hand while taking with the other.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. Let's go straight to Fox 25's Mackenzie Frost. She sat down one-on-one with the governor ahead of that address and joins us live from Annapolis with some of the key takeaways. Mackenzie.
Well, Mary and Kai, the big conversation here in Annapolis is really how will the state address this multi-billion-dollar budget deficit, especially following the governor's address. And some Republicans are left with more questions and answers, pointing to a lack of specifics. And it's all unfolding as the Trump administration remains a top concern for Democrats here in Annapolis.
As the pomp and circumstance of another State of the State address got underway, Governor Wes Moore makes it clear there are two storms he's looking to weather: the $3 billion budget deficit and a new federal administration, sparking uncertainty from Washington.
This is a trying time.
Sitting down before the big speech, Governor Moore takes aim at the state's bottom line.
How do you plan to make that happen and achieve that goal given the uncertainty with federal funding? How do you have a balanced budget by the end of this session?
Well, we need to make sure that we're disciplined about our spending.
The governor says a sluggish economy has resulted in stagnant growth, and now he wants to diversify the state by investing in life sciences, IT and AI, cyber and aerospace.
Places where Maryland is uniquely positioned to win at, but we have not made the investments that were necessary and required.
Is that a safe bet given those industries reliant on the federal government and the uncertainty that we're seeing from the feds at this point?
It is a safe bet because these are also industries that have repeatedly grown. These are industries, whether you're talking about cyber or industries of AI or industries of defense and aerospace, no matter who is sitting in an Oval Office, these are industries that are generally safe bets and places that Maryland has the unique capacity to be able to win at because of the assets that we call that call the state of Maryland home.
But that growth comes with time, and right now, closing the multi-billion-dollar budget hole is the priority.
So this year, we have put forward a common sense package for tax reform that will make taxes simpler, fairer, and pro-growth.
His plan comes with changes to the tax code, like doubling the standard deduction. It also calls for $2 billion in cuts to agencies and programs, plus raising taxes on the wealthiest Marylanders.
I know one of the parts of your budget presentation and proposal includes tax cuts for 2/3 of Marylanders across the state, but the analysis indicates that that will approximately save Marylanders $173 annually. Given the other tax increases that we're seeing in the budget, do you really believe that Marylanders will save any money with your tax cut proposal?
Yeah, middle-class families absolutely will.
Governor Moore's proposal also calls for a cannabis tax increase, sports wagering tax hike, and a tax on Amazon deliveries. But that last one, he says, will not be paid by people making orders online.
Individual people are not getting taxed for this. These are the corporations that will take on this fee.
How can you be confident that they won't pass that on to the consumers, though?
$2 trillion corporations should not be passing off delivery fees to consumers.
Beyond the tax talk, Governor Moore announcing a plan to help Maryland's young men and boys, specifically those with criminal records.
Our new bill would expand eligibility for expungement by allowing individuals who violate their parole or probation to petition to have their records wiped clean.
His latest push comes as lawmakers remain focused on the Department of Juvenile Services and the cracks in the system.
We continue to still hear a lot of frustrations and concerns from lawmakers and law enforcement about the state of DJS. An audit showed there's a lack of accountability and oversight in place. How much longer are you willing to stand by the Secretary Vincent Schiraldi of that department?
Well, you know, I think we have to both remember that DJS is a department that was and still is a place in need of real reforms.
Governor Moore pivoting and pointing to what he says has been a lack of investment in the agency. His budget plan allocates money to reopen a DJS facility in Western Maryland.
When people say, well, you know, it just feels punitive, my answer is, if you love our young people, then actually make sure there's accountability.
But back to the question about Vinny Schiraldi, how long are you willing to stand by him to lead that department and ensure that that accountability is in place?
I mean, DJS is still a department that needs significant reform. I know that being able to focus on making sure our communities are safe, being able to make sure that we're focusing on providing the right supports for our young people is something that I'm not going to back away from.
Not a resounding vote of confidence in Secretary Schiraldi as the pressure mounts for change. Ultimately, Governor Moore looking to lawmakers before him to help deliver on his promise to the people of Maryland.
Let's leave no one behind.
As the number of problems and concerns continue to pile up around the state.
Now, the governor also talked about why he believes now is the time to make changes to the blueprint for Maryland's future. Part of the changes he's proposing is a pause on the teacher collaborative time, mainly because there is a teacher shortage. One of the plans he made up to lawmakers today to pitch them is a national recruitment strategy to bring more teachers to the state of Maryland. But this is also unfolding when there are several lawmakers, especially in the House, who have made it clear they're not interested in making any changes to the blueprint.
Mackenzie, what's reaction from the Republicans right now to the governor's speech?
Well, Kai, a lot of Republican lawmakers say they were looking for more details and specifics from the governor. And I have to tell you that it's not a new criticism that we hear from people here in the State House, that's for sure. But they're also pointing to the tone and rhetoric from the governor, especially when it comes to how he was describing the Trump administration. The governor often today talked about why he believes this is a chaotic time. And that is a new word that we are hearing more and more from him. But Republicans are warning that they don't believe that is a winning strategy to help the state of Maryland.
The federal government desperately needs changes. And so the idea that, it's somehow chaos to be doing it, I mean, that's what our state needs to be doing, is going top to bottom and looking at every spending program. Marylanders are literally just suffering right now under the weight of high cost of living, high taxes, high energy prices. So we need to say, the governor alluded to an effort to try to find some efficiencies in state government. We need to go hardcore on that. Instead of criticizing President Trump or former Governor Hogan, for that matter, we need to be focused on getting our house in order.
Should he be taking a more collaborative approach, trying to work with this administration?
It's certainly not a recommendation from us to criticize the Trump administration when you're relying so heavily on funding that comes from them, especially on big projects like the Key Bridge. I think I would advise him a little bit more to maybe change that attitude, and let's see if we can work together with this new administration.
Do you think his rhetoric will end up hurting the state?
It's possible. It's again, not what we would recommend by any means.
So a lot of the talk today following the speech is working together, finding partnership to accomplish some of these goals. Now that the State of the State address is done, we'll see how long those words of partnership will stick around, especially as the deep cuts and tough decisions that will likely impact Marylanders' wallets will have to be made. Live in the State House, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.